So what we're going to do is I'm going to basically interview him, and we're going to kind of go through the years a little bit, talk about DJing, talk about hit records and battles and TV shows and traveling the globe and all that good stuff. So, and then we'll leave it open for some questions at the end, and please save your questions before the end. So, Jeff.
Yep.
Thanks for coming out. Want to start up with your musical history. Tell me about where you grew up, and you actually got working very early in your life, didn't you?
Yep. Grew up in Philadelphia. I was about 10. Calling myself a DJ. Just playing, you know, at your friend's house party in the basement. You know, just wherever you could get a chance to kind of play music. You know.
Where in Philly did you grow up?
In West Philly.
West Philadelphia.
Yes, Jeff.
Let's represent. So, what about the music made you want to actually play it? What got you into it? Was there a record? Was there something in the family that made you want to play?
Well, you know, my father was really into music in the household, and then, you know, having older brothers. I was the youngest, so having older brothers and sisters, they basically dictated the music that was playing in the house. So I didn't really have any control. But what it is you find yourself being a sponge, listening to, you know, especially growing up in Philly, a lot of the Philly soul, you know, from the OJs, you know, to the Four Tops, to the music that, you know, your older brothers and sisters played, from Earth, Wind and Fire, and Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder. So you just kind of took, you know, pretty much all of that in. And I think just in the summer times in Philly, we used to have a lot of block parties that they would just block the street off, and somebody would bring a sound system out, and you would have a DJ basically playing for hundreds of people in the street. And I think what I would do a lot of times is I would go to the block parties, and I would kind of look at the DJ, and then I would look at the people. And it was amazing to see how much control he had over those people just by the records he played.
So that's what got you interested.
I was like, I want to be that guy.
So did you have any idea what would go into actually being a DJ at that point, as far as the equipment and things?
Not at all. I mean, of course, you looking at these guys that you looked up to in the neighborhood with these massive sound systems, and you probably had 2 small house speakers that, you know, you were trying to figure out how you were going to end up where they were. But I mean, you know, the funny thing is, you know, back then, there was absolutely no money involved. You know, I tell people that I went and got a job to save my money to buy records to do your party for free.
That says a lot. So tell me a little bit about the first system you put together. You were telling me a minute ago, the first one you put together in your house.
Oh man, it was basically a component set, which a lot of people don't really understand what a component set, but that's the big thing that has the, I don't even call it a turntable. It was a record player. It was inside, that it was all in one, and you would hope that it had an auxiliary knob that you could get another turntable and plug it up to. So it was absolutely no mixer, that you would play one record and get to the end and just turn the knob and put the next record on and play it, which you pretty much could have did it with the one turntable, but it just looked cool to have 2 turntables.
And as far as actually getting out and buying your first proper system, I suppose, what did you go out and get?
Well, I mean, you know what's funny is you kind of piece stuff together with other people. Like, you may have one turntable, somebody else may have another turntable, you know, and if you find somebody who has a mixer, that's when your crew became 3 people. And then somebody borrowed their dad's receiver, because it wasn't an amp, you borrowed their dad's receiver, and you had a couple of house speakers, and you went to Radio Shack and got some speaker wire, and you just, you know, that was it. You were a DJ.
So what were your first gigs like?
Well, you know, there were house parties in the neighborhood, you know, leaky pipes, you set up on somebody's washing machine, and, you know, and you just played music. But, you know, what happened is, you know, if you were the guy in a certain area that you did all of the parties, then people started to know you as that guy. So you would do every party that anybody had, you know, in a 10-block radius. That, you know, I played on this street, and then such and such would call and say that they're having a house party, and a lot of times you would do it for food, or you would do it for $15, $20. You know, you just wanted to do it just to kind of get.
Or that girl you liked was going to be at the party.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was important.
Yeah. And what were you playing? This is before hip hop really existed. What kind of records were you playing at that time?
Well, it was pretty much all classic funk, soul, you know, barcades, mass production, brass construction, confunction. You know, anything that, you know, that was really the popular music. You know, it was very much pre-hip hop.
Right.
So, you know, you played that. You played a lot of slow records. You know, at the end of the night.
Right.
So
that quiet storm moments.
Yeah, yeah.
When did you realize you were getting good at this?
I think I did a block party, and it was one of those. You know, the funny thing about the block parties was you would just hope and pray that nobody else had a block party the same day as your block party, because if everybody went to that and 10 people went to yours, you suck. It just so happened to be one of those days that nobody else had a block party, and all of the other DJs in the neighborhood came to the block party that I was playing at, and you had 350, 400 people, and everybody had a good time, you know, and that's when people start talking. Wow, you know, he killed it. He did a really good job, you know, and then people started to hire you more. You know, it's almost like what you wanted to do is you wanted to be the man in a 2-block radius, and then turn that into a 10-block radius, and then turn that into a 20-block radius, and then you become the man in West Philly. Once you become the man in West Philly, then your next goal is for when someone throws that big party, that they get the guy in West Philly and the guy in South Philly and the guy in North Philly all together. And that's when you start gaining fans in other sections of the city. That's when the people in North Philly was like, yo, have you heard this guy Jazzy Jeff in West Philly? He's really good. And that's when it just kind of expands. And then the next thing is to try to expand out of Philly into some of the surrounding areas.
At what point did it turn into a competitive situation in terms of battles?
Oh, that started as soon as, you know, that was from the beginning. From, you know, and the funny thing in the beginning, it had nothing to do with skills. It was all sound system. You know, it was kind of like you could be the best DJ in the world and have 2 small speakers, and the guy off the street could suck and come out with a massive stat and blow you completely off the map. You know, so that's where it started. You know, even as it got bigger, going out to the plateau in Philadelphia, which was in Fairmount Park, that basically had a snack hut, that the snack hut would give you electricity for you to set up on the roof, because the more people that you brought out, the better the snack hut did. So you would get up 7 o'clock in the morning to try to be the first DJ out on the roof to gain that spot and set up. But there were times we set up with 5 speakers and somebody pulled up with a mobile home with 40 speakers. And we just ended up plugging this stuff and just kind of taking it down. Because it was about who had the most.
Let's talk a little bit about the actual organized battles and the types of skills that you had to develop to really become a legend in this game. When did your approach to DJing change in that respect?
Probably about 84. 84 was when they started pretty much having organized battles, that it started to become more about your skill level. You know, people started paying a little bit more attention into mixing techniques. People started scratching. People started backspinning, and you know, and you started adding that in, and that kind of changed everything. That's when the technical aspect really started to come in. And you basically practice. I mean, everything we did because we thought New York was doing it. You know, there was no pipeline of music. So we would get tapes. You would get the Grandmaster Flash tapes and the Grand Wizard Theodore tapes and the Cold Crush tapes that were 20th generation, and it was muffled. But this kind of gave you the closest glimpse of what you thought that party scene was like.
And you're thinking, how are they doing this?
Absolutely. And what it is, because we didn't know, especially in Philly, we just started doing what we thought they were doing, but you never realized that what you were doing is kind of creating something completely different.
So how did you come across, let's say, the transform, scratch, and some of these other things that you came up with? Was it just trial and error, sitting in your basement?
Completely. Yeah. Completely. I mean, you just kind of, you know, what I tell a lot of people is DJing all comes from borrowing from somebody else and adding your own flavor to it. That's pretty much all DJing is, that's all producing is, that's all anything creative is. It's kind of like you kind of take, I always call it almost like a soup, that you're taking ingredients and you're putting it all in.